guys, welcome to another episode of Bravo for the B-Side. This is Danny.
And this is Jim.
And we're going to run through this intro. We're going to sprint through it.
Yes, because
we want to talk about this movie.
Fucking A, we do.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's very exciting.
I have not been this excited since we've talked about like one of the Frenzy movies or David stuff or, any of the folks that we've been, dealing with this whole podcasting thing. Because we're always very excited when they have something.
Oh, yes.
But, ladies and gentlemen, fucking A. Anyway, we'll come to that.
Yeah. News this week for us. Our dog got fixed.
Yeah.
He's a sad sausage about it.
Yes, he is. It was 3 days ago.
Yeah.
He's laying up in his pen.
With his cone of shame.
Yep, with the cone of shame. He's got his last painkillers tomorrow.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So we'll see. He's been pretty much a delight.
Yeah, he has actually. He's been just a doll.
Yeah, he's got his painkillers and he's got an anti-anxiety med to kind of get him through. So what can I say? It's been a little slice of heaven.
It's been nice, yeah.
Yeah. No complications, no problems.
Yeah.
He did look at us.
He did, yeah.
A little confused and befuddled, like, I woke up, you took me for a ride, then I suddenly fell asleep after getting poked. I woke up, my balls are gone, and I have to wear a onesie.
Yeah.
What a fucking day for that poor guy.
It was an upsetting day.
But it's all for the best.
It really is. I hope it calms him down because he is a challenging dog.
Yeah, he's a 10 out of 10. This dude is an excited little fart.
Yeah.
He just is something.
Yeah.
It's sweet, wonderful, amazing, but oh man. Dialing it down to even like an 8.
Yeah.
Would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're starting a garden.
We're starting a garden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We failed at a
miserably.
big garden down in one of the lower fields
2 years ago.
What can I say? When you have a garden that big, because that was a big bitch.
It was.
It was huge. You need to be down there like every day, pretty much all day throughout the day.
Pretty much.
To do it. And when you got 2 people working, it doesn't happen that way. So anyway, we're doing raised bed gardens right by the house, not 300 yards away,
right,
or 300 feet away.
They're small.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gonna grow some stuff. You've got some baby sprouts.
I have some baby sprouts, and I have a dream.
A dream.
Of a green bean arch.
Yeah, we're gonna, as soon as we get the beds in place, we're gonna put up the arch and see if we can't Joe Para this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put green beans on either side of it and see if they'll meet in the middle.
Green bean.
You can reach up and pick a bean.
Yeah.
Well,
trying to think real quick. Anything? Oh, little bonus. So the upcoming, it's going to be like a month or two, somewhere in the next month or two. Making Pondo, Talking Pondo.
Yes.
We're going to be on the Talking Pondo portion again.
Mm-hmm.
And so they gave us some movies. We picked one. And they kind of hinted at when they were hoping for.
Yeah.
So we're like, yeah, that sounds good. We gave them a list.
Mm-hmm.
And on that list was this movie we're going to talk about. And they picked it.
Yes.
And I am super fucking excited about that.
I did sort of hint that I would like them to pick that movie.
You know what? I'll take it no matter what. Yeah. I'm just real excited about this. I'm trying to think of any relevant news that we shouldn't skip past.
David got greenlit to make another Redwood Massacre film.
Yeah, we mentioned that
Burlap will return.
Last one.
Yes.
Yep. Burlap.
And his Primal game should be coming out soon.
Yes. Soon. And just so everyone knows, I did master this whole thing. Yeah.
Our sunboards are back.
Yep, they're back. Doing this digitally is not any less complicated than doing it with patch cables.
Yeah.
Because with I understand physical shit. I'm not a sound engineer, but you put all that equipment in front of me with a bunch of fucking cables, I will sort that shit out. I can figure out what's going where and stuff. Digital cables, not so much. there's a lot of guesswork, and there's still stuff I have to do.
Sure.
You know, but anyway,
Yeah.
got this part done.
Well, is that all the news?
I believe so. I don't think anything has come up Hollywood wise or indie filmmaking wise that I am aware of. Ooh.
Well, in that case, if you like our podcast and you want to support us, check out our website, lordsandmisrulproductions.com. Everything is up there.
It's all there. Everything's there. Sick of going through it. Go to the stuff, sign up, join a Patreon, like, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff. And yeah, let's keep the heartbeat going. Should have had a heartbeat. I didn't know I was going to say that.
You know what? I have a heartbeat.
Do you have a heartbeat?
I do.
Give me a heartbeat.
Okay. Oh no. I oriented my iPad poorly. So I can't switch screens on it.
Oh.
Well, because the thing at the bottom blocks my little slide up. All right. I feel like I've missed the moment because I don't know where the heartbeat
we're
went.
past it. Are we ready to talk about this movie?
Tell us about this movie.
Oh, I can't wait. This movie, this episode is Give Me Liberty. I didn't want to do this. I just want to start talking. But anyway, 2019, directed by Kirill Mikhanovsky, written by Alice Austin, Kirill Mikhanovsky, starring Chris Galust, Lauren Lolo Spencer, and Maxim Stoyanov. No official rating. Budget. So I thought we had this one nailed. However, there's so many conflicting reports. I do know they had a Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
That was like for $36,000. That was not the extent of this film.
No. They did win an award at a film festival for having in the category of films with a budget under $500,000.
Right.
But then there was a conflicting article that said the budget was about $1 million.
Yeah, see, I don't know. It's rough. All I know is there's a bunch of people involved in this.
Mm-hmm.
The end credits is...
It was a whole big team.
Yeah, it's like watching the end of a Marvel movie. It was a lot of stuff. And not just individuals who contributed, but a lot of other companies and organizations, film boards, all kinds of stuff in their fingers in this somehow. And it shows. This is killer. So our log line for this: in this freewheeling comedy, medical transport driver Vic risks his job to shuttle a group of rowdy seniors and a Russian boxer to a funeral, dragging clients like Tracy, a young woman with ALS, along for the ride. All right. You're going to take us in.
All right. So we start with this older gentleman, bedridden. He's talking, saying a doctor told him he would never walk again.
Mm-hmm.
He in the story he names himself James.
Right.
So he was like, no. So he talks about how he went to PT, did everything he was supposed to do, and. Do you want to play the clip?
I mean, just play the clip.
Yeah.
This was an awesome way to begin.
Mm-hmm.
And his voice is just like really cool.
He does have a good voice.
So yeah, let's just about piss my pants first time. If I touch it, it'll play.
Will it?
When the doctor told me, James, you'll never walk again in your life, I say, man, get the fuck out of here. You're full of shit. I'm gonna walk. But I went to therapy, and everything I had to do, I did to try to walk on my own. And I'd be damned if that doctor wasn't right. I never walked since that day.
I'm sorry. That was just so unexpected.
Yeah.
It's not any less funny. Oh, shit. Okay.
But James here, he is spindly, bedridden,
Mm-hmm.
smoking a cigarette, monitor on his chest.
Well, yeah, the cigarette's hanging from his mouth.
Yeah.
He's puffing on it.
And he says, but life is what it is. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. He loves life. And he starts talking about love. And he's giving all this lovely, like, advice speech to a young man in a yellow vest.
Right. Well, we see a hand come in, take the cigarette out of his mouth,
right,
ash it off screen, and then stick it back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then we get a short montage of an artist working, drawing trees. And then the young man who was in the vest, Vic, is waking up his Russian grandfather so he isn't late for the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And Grandpa is not all the way with it. Just starts talking about America, newly found home, just goes on this rant. And then he's trying to make chicken. Like he's trying to spatchcock this chicken with a kettlebell.
Yep.
And then he's banging the kettlebell around, and Vic is like trying to manage him. He tells him, no cooking. Gotta get ready. You can't miss Lilia's funeral. And then Vic is putting together Grandpa's pills in his little pill case.
Mm-hmm.
And Grandpa's talking about love. And there are all these beautiful tree drawings on the walls. And Vic leaves for work in his yellow safety vest.
Yeah.
And he is picking up a very overweight man, Ben, who is in no way prepared to be picked up.
No.
And you get the sense that this is an everyday sort of regular thing.
Right?
Because they've got a banter back and forth, Vic and Ben.
Mm-hmm.
So Vic is going in and helping him get ready. And he's like, I can't do this for you all the time, Ben. And Ben says he lost 90 pounds in the hospital. He mentions some houses getting burned down in protests.
Oh yeah, because there were protests, and a house or a couple got burnt down.
And then he just goes on and on about protesters whining, starts complaining about people who complain, and Vic is just trying to like get this guy in the van and drive while those guys just talking incessantly. So he picks up another passenger,
and Ben is still bitching.
Yeah, he is. And she's talking about being in a talent show. And Vic has a rapport with these people. He knows this girl, Michelle. And, she gets on the bus with Ben. And Ben, because she's singing, like Rock Around the Clock.
Yeah.
And Ben asks her if she likes Elvis. And she's like, oh, yeah, I like Elvis. Or my boyfriend likes Elvis or something. And he's like, I hate Elvis.
Yeah. He just... and then...
Yeah, you brought it up, Ben. Michelle tries to diffuse him gently, but he just keeps talking. And Michelle's a more subdued, sort of quiet person.
Right.
Eventually, Vic drops Ben off and gets a radio message over the van thing asking him where he is. And he says he'll be there in 10 minutes. It's dispatch. He's got people to pick up and drop off. And Michelle is stressed about possibly missing the talent show. Right.
Well, it's worth noting, too, Vic is driving this fucking van like GTA.
He is, yeah.
He is just racing this bitch everywhere.
So back at his building, this is where stuff really starts to kick off a bit.
Yes.
The elderly Russians, it's a building full of elderly Russians like Vic's grandpa. And they're upset that the bus never came for Lilia's funeral. It was going to take them to the funeral and bring them back. And Vic says he called it in. Apparently, this is his transport company. The bus, maybe, never came to pick him up.
Yeah.
And there's a younger Russian man looking at the flyer for Lilia's funeral. And he meets Vic at the elevator, and Vic breaks the news to him because he says that he's her nephew. This young man.
Right.
Says that he's Lilia's nephew, and Vic's like, oh, so she passed away.
And he's how passed away? I talked to her 3 days ago.
Yeah.
what, what, what,
What happened?
What happened? What do you mean?
And the floor Vic stops at is all smoky. And this young Russian man gets out to help him because Grandpa's been trying to cook. And Vic's going on and on, they're going to kick us out, blah, blah, blah. And the Russian man, Dima, does a fair job of distracting Grandpa while Vic cleans up. He starts pretend boxing with Grandpa and,
He's talking shit.
Mm-hmm.
Just, yeah, nonsense.
Yeah. He goes into the kitchen and he's like Cajun style. It's this like blackened chicken. He starts eating it. He's trying to open a jar of sauerkraut to go with it, and he can't open the jar. And it's just, already it's just chaos. And poor Vic is just trying to like get this settled so he can get back to work.
Yeah, he's on the clock. He's got to get going.
Yeah. So Dima puts the chicken in a newspaper cone that he makes and brings the sauerkraut to as they leave. He's just like shoving stuff in his backpack.
So then they get downstairs, and all these old Russians are still in the lobby. And they're like, Vic, our bus hasn't come. Lilia's at the, cemetery all alone, and you got to give us a ride. You got to give us a ride. And he's like, no, I can't. He's going back and forth. And then Grandpa in Russian is, you have to do this. You have to do this. He's like, oh. So next shot, everybody's in the van.
Mm-hmm.
Dima lets everybody know that he's Lilia's nephew. None of them knew she had a nephew.
And they're like, you don't look anything like her.
And he says he's from Brooklyn. And then Vic is on the radio, and he's, 10 minutes tops. Dispatcher says he's already 30 minutes late. How is 10 more minutes going to help? And as he's driving, he comes to a roadblock. And this was set up because of the protests that were mentioned by Ben earlier.
Right.
And he's told he has to go all the way around. Now, mind you, folks, this is in Milwaukee.
Yes.
So, and the reason that's important is because Milwaukee is like Chicago, is like New York, and is like LA, right? There are surface streets which take you for fucking ever to go places, and a lot of them don't cross the freeways.
Right.
Right. So he cannot get to any of the freeways. So he's GTA driving that fucking van around corners. People are just left and right.
Yep.
And this thing's rattling and tires are squealing. And then Dima says he needs to pee. Vic's like, well, that's bad timing. And then the radio comes on again, asking Vic, where the fuck are you? He says, on the way, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, soon. And then he's racing down the street. Everyone is bouncing all over the radio again. And we get another 10 minutes tops. And, Vic tells the dispatcher that the roads are blocked. Then Vic gets to a house, goes in, calls for Tracy, and yelling, her ride is here. She says he's an hour late, and it's a black family, and this is the whole part of the protests, because it was just, I'm not sure what exactly kicked them off, but it's kind of a my neighborhood kind of thing they're protesting against.
I think there was some mention of like a shooting and then protests after.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so Tracy is in a scooter.
Mm-hmm.
She has ALS. And there's all kinds of commotion over a mattress. There's mattress halfway up like a first flight of stairs that goes up, turns, and continues.
And Vic is initially helping move the mattress.
Well,
because he had to move it out of the doorway for him to get in. Yeah.
And then Tracy's brother comes down, and he starts yelling at one of their other sisters. It's like, I fucking work. What are you doing all day? Nothing. Why aren't you carrying this up? So then he picks up an end. Vic picks up an end, and then the brother just like drops it, comes down, goes and does something else, and Vic's just standing there. He's like, well, fuck. So Back in the van, this whole group of old Russians, as with the accompaniment of an accordion, are singing "Let My People Go."
Right.
Michelle is singing "Rock Around the Clock" on her own. After they're done, and then the old man playing the accordion starts to give
Play
a
with her.
little accompaniment. And then back into the house, Vic is trying to get, or outside, Vic is trying to get Tracy into the van. Her scooter locks up for a little bit. He's trying to fix. He's like, "Stop, stop, 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 stop. I know what to do." She gets it sorted out. And then he tells everyone they have to get out so he can get Tracy inside.
Right.
Right. So one of the old Russian women asks if he knows what kind of neighborhood they are in.
Right.
And, yeah. It's a whole thing. So next thing we see them outside, standing on the sidewalk, not happy.
No.
Tracy gets lifted up, the lift, gets in the van, and then she sends Vic into the house to get a sword. She got someone as a gift. She's just like, just go in there.
I forgot the sword. Go get the sword.
Tell my mom it's the gift. So he goes in, gets the gift, and you can see it's a sword wrapped up. And then the radio again, and Vic again, 10 minutes tops. And Tracy is grilling Vic about him taking the old people to a funeral before dropping her off. She calls his dispatcher. She's like, "I need to report a situation here."
Well, yeah, because she initially grills him like, "Are all these people supposed to be on this van? Who are all these people? Yeah. Why are they here?" And Vic just sort of evades answering.
Well, so then immediately after the phone call, Vic's on the radio again, and he's explaining about the whole mattress thing.
Yeah.
And then again, we get another 10 minutes tops. And then he and Tracy argue because he's like, "Why would you do that?"
Yeah.
Vic is racing. He takes a wide turn, sideswipes a car.
Well, yeah, he clips the back end of another van that's parked.
Yeah. In the commotion, Dima finds a candy bar on the floor of the van and like scoops it up, shoves it in his jacket. So Vic stops. The man comes up and tells Vic he needs to pay him $500 or he can't leave. They're going back. There's a whole big thing. They're going back and forth.
So it was his car Vic hit.
Yeah, he's like, "I don't need no insurance. Insurance ain't going to pay me shit. You owe me $500. Then he just takes Vic's wallet. Vic tells him that the cards are all maxed out. And the guy is asking him stuff, and it's because Vic buys vinyls.
Right.
And then the man's like, "Well, we can go to an ATM machine. There's a time machine right over there."
Yeah.
And I say time machine because he mentions it the one time. I don't know if anyone remembers these, but when freestanding ATM machines first became a thing in southern Wisconsin, time, Tyme, they were time machines.
Right.
I don't know the origin of the name or anything, but that's how I grew up. You didn't go to an ATM, you went to a time machine. Yeah. Oh, man, this is like,
I know.
So much is going. This is so chaotic, this beginning.
Tracy tells the guy to back off.
Yeah, so she's yelling at him, "Let it go." They argue a bit. Dima tries to help, and then Vic just takes off. Dima tells Tracy she's a strong woman, big respect. Then we fucking dispatcher, and then again, 10 minutes. One of the old women is having a diabetic issue.
Right.
Low blood sugar. And she needs a candy bar because hers is missing. Cut to Dima, who's got the last 2 bites of it. And he just like shoves it in his mouth and puts his face down in his coat. And just wolfs it down. At this point, Vic is just like, "Fuck this." And he just lights a cigarette in the van.
Yeah.
As everyone is yelling, and he is just racing through town. And then finally, he gets to a center and lets everyone off. And Tracy is just hilarious. Commenting on the situation like, oh, well, I'm so glad the accordion got off this van before I did.
I know. And then she's like, no, it's fine. I'm not mad as long as I get off,
Oh, God.
She has a client there waiting for her.
And then while this is all going on, another dude comes on, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Steve he seems like he's unable to speak. He can make sounds.
Right.
And she's who he was supposed to meet. And what she does is she gets these folks with disabilities jobs.
Right.
She's like, I got some paperwork, to do, and we're going to do this and that. And then Vic shuts the door.
Yep.
And she calls the company for a new driver, and they say it'll take 45 minutes. And she's just like, no, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So she is stuck in the van with Steve while all these people go inside.
Right.
Michelle, because she's, there for the talent show.
Right.
But all the old Russians go
right.
in as well.
Who went in because they need to find something for that woman to eat.
Yeah, because they're supposed to be vending machines.
Mm-hmm. Woo.
Let's see. Inside is the talent show, and I loved this bit. We'll talk more about it at the end, because one of the big driving points of this is this movie was designed to have no real actors, meaning no names.
Right.
Right. And all of these people are real people with real disabilities. And we talked about this. We'll talk about it more. I don't want to get the whole thing. But it's just wonderful.
It is.
Right. They're all there. They're enjoying themselves. They're having this talent show. There's a lot of shots of the, different folks and watching the performers. As this is going on, the Russians find a vending machine and it's empty.
Plumb empty.
Just empty. Then Michelle is up and she sings Rock Around the Clock. Vic goes to a staffer asking about snacks, right? Can we have something we can give him? And the guy pulls out dog treats. But they're dog treats that they make at the center, and they are actually perfectly fit for human consumption.
Right.
Right. So it's just like when we make stuff,
for Husker.
For little man. And I wouldn't necessarily want to, because they are a bit more dog oriented, our recipes. But in a center like this, you can't make things that can't be ate.
Right.
Right. So, and then Vic is on the phone with dispatch, and then he's trying to round everybody up. And I wrote, I'm fucking exhausted just watching Vic.
I know.
I mean, we are like 20 minutes into this movie, and I am almost perspiring. And then one of the older Russian women is watching a guy drawing trees with markers, and she says he's very talented. These are the same drawings
that were on the wall in Vic's apartment.
Yes. And they are really cool looking.
They are.
I mean, they're really just lines, it's not like a full on sketch, like a pencil sketch kind of thing.
Right.
But just the way they're done, I don't know, there's just something soothing looking at them, and the colors.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, okay, yeah, we could do a few more minutes of that. I'm going to let you take over because,
all right.
That was hard and heavy.
So it's pure chaos. Tracy outside has managed to get a hold of someone who is in the center and asking them to come help her. It's her boyfriend. So she gives him the sword for his birthday, and, it's a katana, and he's like, oh, cool. She asks him to take a box to his place. Apparently she's moving in with him. And he says, can you hold on to the sword? I can't bring it in the building, which tracks, right? And then he doesn't want to take the box. He's like, can we do this later tonight? And she's like, what? And he says, I'm going to go get the driver. And he just leaves.
Really dismissive.
Yeah.
I mean, very douchey.
Yeah. And he's acting weird. And even Tracy asks Steve, she's like, Steve, that was weird, right?
You're like,
yeah.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah. So inside, Vic is trying to herd the group to the van while Dima is playing a Wii boxing game. And then we're back. Everyone's back in the van. And Dima is talking to Tracy, telling him that he was disabled.
I know disabled. I was disabled.
Yeah. He said, I'm disabled. And she's like, okay. He said he was born dead and his grandma prayed to a Saint Pantaleon. And he tells this very weird story about Saint Pantaleon. And then he's like flirting with her. And then what?
Well, he goes into this whole big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of like summarized it. The moral of the story that he was telling her, this whole big saint thing, was to believe in Jesus because it's important to believe in something.
Right. So the elderly Russians start again saying they need to be with Lilia. She's all alone. They start singing again. And we learn that Dima is a boxer. Or at least he was.
Right.
So they've finally arrived at the funeral, and it seems like Lilia has already been buried. So they're, they all kind of come out of the van. They start piling up the flowers and stuff they've brought on her grave. Tracy's chair has become stuck in the grass.
Yeah, it just...
So Dima tries to help her, but then he just picks her up out of the chair and carries her over, and he's like, Lilia was a good woman.
And I just want to note this cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all what I expected.
No.
But this is kind of how it is. It's just like this super flat.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in winter, by the way. So it's brown grass and stuff. And there's all these freshly covered graves.
Yeah.
And just like a small group of guys with a backhoe. And
pretty much.
Yeah, and a stack of like pictures.
Right.
The little like big, you see at a funeral the big placard picture on stands, and they're piled up off to the side.
Yeah. So, where was I? Oh, Grandpa is reading his poems. His writing about Lilia.
Yeah.
Who apparently was his girlfriend.
I'm not super clear on that. There's a lot of relationships amongst this older group.
Yeah.
I did the best I could.
So, there's a sort of ringleader of these elderly Russians, and I can't remember her name. I call her Bossy Lady in here. But she says they'll remember Lilia with a song, and then they all start arguing about which song. And they start singing, and then while they're singing, those gravediggers bring over a picture of some guy and set it next to the grave, and they're all like, wait, this isn't Lilia's grave? So they're like, where's Lilia? So they pick up all the flowers and move to the other grave. And they start singing again at the second grave. They, want to do their whole thing again.
They start completely over. Grandpa starts with the poetry.
Totally over.
So the song they sung at the first one was a Belarusian fighting song.
Right.
When they were on the bus or the van rehearsing the Let My People Go.
Yeah.
And then they're like, she was a fighter and this and that. And a couple people were okay. Others were like, no. They go through the whole fucking thing again.
Yeah.
It's
if you've ever worked with the elderly.
That's how it rolls.
That's how it goes. So meanwhile, Vic and Dima are lighting cigarettes with the gravediggers. And Dima's still carrying Tracy.
Yep.
And Dima compares Wisconsin to Siberia. He's like, why Wisconsin? America's very big.
Well, he's walking fucking Siberia, fucking Wisconsin. And then they take a few steps. He's like, America is so very big. Why Wisconsin? Fucking Siberia.
So back at the apartment building, dropping off the elderly, Vic learns that he and Grandpa are being evicted. The fire incident in the morning was apparently the last straw.
Yeah.
So Dima suggests everybody go to Lilia's apartment. She would be so happy about it. So they go to the security office, and Dima is trying to sweet talk the security guard into letting him into Lilia's apartment by virtue of his relation as her nephew.
Yes.
And it's not going super well.
No.
But it takes a little while and it gets a little uncomfortable. But then they're in Lilia's apartment singing and drinking. And this seems more like a real funeral. This is the,
Yeah. Well, towards the end of the thing with the security guard, Vic gave up.
Yeah, Vic just left.
Deem is in full force here.
Mm-hmm.
So he's on the phone because his mom's calling him about some fucking couch.
Yeah.
And he's just like, why? What's with the fucking couch? I've got stuff I'm doing.
Yeah. Even Tracy looks like she's enjoying herself. And like maybe she's forgotten that she needs to get to work. At this point, she's just like, whatever, going with the flow.
You do. You just got to roll with it, man.
And Vic looks so tired and defeated.
Oh, my God. Yes.
Oh, man. Everyone around him is partying and stuff, and he is just like, can this day be over yet?
And you know what's funny? At this point, I felt Vic.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, watching just the beginning was like, oh. And it hasn't stopped.
No.
It's not like they had a respite, or we as the audience get a respite.
Right.
Slows down a little bit at the center because there's a lot of shots and stuff. But the energy doesn't go away. It's, roll, fucking go. So yeah, as Vic's looking bone ass frazzled, I'm like, I feel you, buddy.
Yeah. And this is where we get our sort of intermission. So our narrator from the beginning, James,
yes,
is talking about someone that he loved.
Mm-hmm.
And Vic's asking what made her special. And he's basically, it's just the way she loved me and cared for me. And, it's just a nice little, like,
yeah,
like a little breath. And then we see Vic leaving the apartment building with Tracy and Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all talking friendly now. It feels like Tracy has really seen Vic at this point, whereas earlier she was calling him driver, blah 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 blah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was the tool to get her from A, B, C to D, E, and F.
And now he's a person.
Right, because she's seeing, fuck, this is this guy's life.
Yeah. So Vic's mom is asking him to come get a couch. And so he gets dispatch again saying that they're going to report the van stolen if it's not returned to the lot in 10 minutes. And Vic just says, fuck it.
Well, yeah, they're talking about his records.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, so what's all this? There's got to be a story to this. And he's just like, I like vinyls. She goes, you can download this shit for free. And he's like, no, it's not the same. It's a certain type of quality that people just don't understand and everything. I love that little bit.
Yeah.
Because that is real.
Well, that's her,
right?
Seeing him. And now she's like, I'm interested in who you are as a person.
Yeah. And then with the whole thing, she's like, so what's that all about? He's like, work stuff. Fuck it.
And then we hear Vic's boss giving him a lecture about how he's fucked up for the last time.
Yeah. Not the first time.
Right. And Vic's, like, I need this job. His boss forces him to hand over the key to the van. And as the boss is just lecturing him, Vic tunes him out.
Yeah.
And then another call comes in and his boss just slides the key back over to him like, well, guess you got lucky.
Someone can't make it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a disco party at the center that night. And he's like, slides the key back. It just basically lets him know, don't fucking fuck up.
Right.
Don't make me fire you.
So then Vic's picking up the big talker, Ben.
That's what's
from earlier that day, and Ben is talking about how he's in love now.
Well, first he starts with him. He's like, he comes out, and all we hear is just Ben's voice coming towards the door, like muffled, and the door opens. And he goes, you know, I'm sorry, but he's just going on about having to sit at his favorite restaurant for 6 fucking hours.
And how that's not helpful to his health.
It's not helpful at all. Oh. You're okay, buddy? Our little man is hearing us.
He's directly above us.
I don't know if that'll make it onto here, but yeah, he's right, literally right above us.
Our puppy, yeah.
So he's borking.
Borking.
He's got X-Files on. He'll be fine.
Yeah, he's got Mulder and Scully to keep him company.
Yeah. So anyway, Ben.
Yeah. So yeah, he's talking about how he's in love now, and Vic's literally just not even paying attention to anything Ben is saying, really.
No.
So back at the apartment, Dima has found money in Lilia's house. Like a stack of money.
I know.
And he's like, my money. And he tries to get Vic to open the cabbage again. He's been trying this jar.
The
whole time.
Yeah, this is like, the fucking vault of the Holy Grail. This fucking thing isn't budging for anyone.
Yeah. So they gather up the old folks and head out. And Dima still can't open the cabbage.
So then Vic is on the phone with his mom. More shit about the couch. Says, give him 10 minutes. Back to that. He and Dima get there. His mother is playing the piano as a woman is singing, and she's practicing for a recital. And then she, of course, wants him to sit down and eat something, stay for the practice. She never gets to talk to him. And then she tells Dima a short version of losing her husband and how it was when they arrived in America. And they're, talking. She's like, eat, da, da, da. And then the woman just starts to sing.
Yeah.
Like loudly. And I thought, well, if that isn't being a fucking full-on bitch.
Yeah, this woman's
That was just rude.
Yeah.
Fuck her. I'm going to say it again in a little bit, too. So, Vic and Dima, finally, they lift the couch, and Vic ends up bumping something and gets knocked over and breaks. And it was something that had sentimental value. Her dad bought it for her early on. Something about a concert. They were like so close.
She says it's like the shards of my life.
Yeah, it's like it's all busted on the floor like the shards of my life. And then Dima learns that Vic has a sister.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally like if he was a dog, his tail just straight up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's a what? A sister.
Uh-huh.
Then, at some point, his mother reveals, as she pulls him aside, that she's been saving money for him, but he doesn't have a future, and she starts crying.
Right, because she wants him to stop driving the van.
Yeah, stop driving the van. She wanted him to be involved with music.
Yeah.
Or instruments or something, because he's talking about fingers and this and that, and and then it's a full-on guilt trip.
Oh, yeah.
And then he and Dima are carrying the couch out and down the hall. Then Vic's sister shows up. And as soon as she does, Dima drops the couch to help her carry a box into the apartment. Vic sits on the couch in the hallway, just fucking exasperated. It's just because he knows he's not going to be able to peel Dima off his sister anytime soon. He's seen Dima at work. And he has totally locked onto Vic's sister. And they all dip back in the apartment. Vic's sister asks for salt for something she's eating, and Dima whips out the sauerkraut, and he tries again and fails. She tries and fails. He tries again, and this fucking thing is not opening for anyone. Goes back and forth, back and forth. They're singing. There's parents. Mom's talking to Vic. Just blah 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 blah. And then finally, she gets it open. Some of it spills on Dima. So she says, take off your clothes. And she goes over to this wardrobe cart.
Well, his whole explanation quick for why
Oh,
he
yeah.
suddenly needed to open the cabbage was because she had asked for salt and he was like, salt, cabbage.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, that's not the right thing.
It's, salty cabbage.
Yeah.
Like, no. Um, so there's this like wardrobe rack there. And I was trying to think, was it her,
I think it was her husband's clothes
because we
because he
learned,
died only a couple months
yeah,
before.
we learned that he died 2 months before. She's pregnant, by the way. So she takes Dima over there and, he like tries on a jacket and it rips and it's just a whole kind of thing. And then we have recital woman trying to belt stuff out here and there. And so as Dima puts the jacket on, it rips. And then they're kind of like having fun about it.
Yeah, they're flirting a little
And
bit.
then she gets like, oh, like just,
yeah,
it just, curls back. And then he's like chasing her around, like give her a hug. Vic gets him finally to move the couch. They're taking it outside. Dima thinks they can just leave it.
Yeah.
Like in Russia. Just fucking leave it. And Vic's like, you can't do that here. Right? So they end up getting the couch where it needs to be dumped, and then they're back in the van and they're taking Grandpa home. And then we're back to James in bed and talking to Vic. And he goes on this whole thing like, I'm talking to you like, a father would talk to his son, and this whole big thing. And then he goes, all this time I've been talking to you and I haven't heard you once say, I want to do this or that. So I pulled that one too. So I'm going to pop that out.
When I was your age, I had plenty of ambition. Why don't you have any? You not once have you told me I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to be this, I want to be that. Why? I'm just asking you a question, man to man.
And that's like point, spot on.
Yeah.
That was like a right between the eyes. Because when they cut to Vic after the question's been asked, you can see he's utterly lost. And really, his only answer is he says he guesses he hasn't found his purpose yet. And then James goes on to say things happen. And when they do, you have to grab them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I love James.
Yeah.
So then Vic's back at Tracy's house with Grandpa in tow.
Uh-huh.
And the next thing you know, they're both at the table being fed.
Yes.
When Tracy comes downstairs. So she can walk.
Right.
Not well, very slowly, not stable, hence the scooter. Right. And Vic has a surprise for her, tells her that they're going to a disco later.
Well, the surprise isn't just the disco. He brought her.
Yeah, that's part of the surprise. But he also brought her a mobility scooter that was it Lilia's?
I think it was James's. He said it's a friend's.
It's a friend's. That's right. Yeah, because there was a quick shot of him kind of like tooling around and smiling. I guess he was seeing if it worked. So he's got that for her. And then Tracy's little brother is heading out with some friends, and she starts like
grilling.
Whoa, where are you going?
Mm-hmm.
And she just doesn't want him to go because of all the shit that's going on. Right? The roads are already blocked. Protests are going to be going on.
Mm-hmm.
And as we all know, protests are really not where you want anyone close to you to be. It can get rough. Then there's an argument between the two of them about, how is trying to be a DJ a job? Because you aren't making any money. I pay all the bills. His friend says they're going out to sell their CDs to make money the fast way. And then she's like, oh, the fast way. And so, she's like, give us a little something. So they go into the little rap routine. Tracy's mom starts talking about her husband.
Yeah.
And she's loaded. She's
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been sipping booze since we first saw her in the morning. And she is just out there. We learned that he was a gambler. She didn't know at first. When she found out, she was embarrassed, didn't know how to tell people. This woman has some deep, deep wounds,
Yeah.
right? And so now, in this little bit, I mean, through this whole thing, we've seen Vic's life, right?
Yeah.
I refuse to believe that today it might be a little extra, but this isn't, I don't think, an exception to his daily life. We get the sense
No.
from Grandpa, every day's got to be a thing with Grandpa.
Yeah.
You know, stop fucking cooking. You can't cook. You know, the job, just the shit that goes on, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now we have a real look at Tracy, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's the head of the household.
Yes.
She's the one working. She's the one bringing in the money. She makes all the shit happen for everybody. Um, uh, Mom eventually ends up crying on Grandma's shoulder.
Grandpa's.
No, no,
Oh,
it was Grandma.
Tracy's grandma.
Yeah, Tracy's grandma. Because she's there too.
Mm-hmm.
And then Vic and Tracy are up in her room, and he's showing her an improvised record player by putting a record on a pencil, making a cone of paper, and taping a needle to it.
Yeah.
You spin it, and then you put that on there. And it, I mean, you know, it sort of works. It sounds horrible. Anyone who's done it knows.
Yeah.
And she asks, you know, does this ruin the record? And he's like, yeah, it really fucks it up.
I love that moment.
I know, it's such a real moment.
It's
and just genuine and sweet and not.
It's a gorgeous, gorgeous moment.
It's him showing himself to her.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm talking about, vinyls. Now, this isn't going to illustrate the sound and stuff, but you know, you can't do this with an MP3 player.
Yeah.
Right? I can play a record without power. I need a pin, tape, paper, and a pencil.
Yeah, it really fucks it up.
Yeah, it really fucks it up. Then they're in the van, and he asks,
"Can I put one thing?"
Sure.
So Vic left his grandpa with Tracy's family.
Oh yeah, I'm coming to that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it's just the two of them in the van,
mm-hmm.
and when that happened, I thought maybe they're just not showing Grandpa. Right, first time we watched it, so I'm like, huh, okay. Anyway, he asks about the sword. She says it was a gift for her boyfriend. Says he collects them. Vic asks how many. She says, well, this is the first one. And then Vic asks, does he know he's collecting them?
Yeah, she's like, I don't know.
Then back to Tracy's house, Grandpa is in the kitchen cooking. And I couldn't type fast enough. I wrote this down.
Chicken.
I can't type fast enough to describe this mess. But Grandma is just having a good old time with him in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
He's got pots stacked on top of pots and chicken pressed between shit. And I'm like, what in the fuck is going? I've never seen this kind of madness, but it was hilarious.
Yes.
But he is just in his element, and Grandma is just all about it.
Oh yeah.
It was just beautiful. And there's smoke in the kitchen.
Yes.
It's like a thick fucking London fog. So at the disco, we have music and lights. It's at the center. Tracy's arguing with her boyfriend. He's breaking up with her.
And she looks amazing.
She does look amazing. And he is, I mean, just every bit the douche that we kind of read into him at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, just really dickish, kind of stupid, selfish, whatever. Elsewhere in the center, folks are dancing it up. They're all just having a wonderful time.
Mm-hmm.
This is their party. So, and we have, there's a lot of shots. Vic is having some moments. You can see he's thinking. They cut to him. There was a spot in here when he had that like thinking look where everything went black and white. And I mean like 3 seconds. And then, they're back to it. And then he snaps out of it because Tracy is yelling at him, asking if he can take her home.
Right.
Because this all just happened. So on the way home, Tracy gets a phone call, says she'll be home shortly. But
there are sirens blaring all over as they're driving.
Yes. Yeah. This whole part of the city is just going, right? They get to her house. Turns out her brother has been arrested. And her mom is yelling at her that she needs to go bail him out for $1,000. Right?
Yeah.
Mom's a bit of a mean drunk, too.
A little bit.
I mean, don't bite the hand that feeds you, especially when it's your fucking kid.
Right.
And then the rest of this scene goes black and white. Yeah, it was just something. So Vic runs to his mother's place, and the recital is going on. And he tells her that he needs some of the money that she's saved. His sister, Sasha, is asked by mom to play the piano so she can look for the money. And Sasha hates it. At first, she's like, no fucking way. And I don't know what that whole story is, but I think mom was hard on her because she's a nurse.
Yeah. Mom wanted them to be musicians.
Yeah, so whatever happened there, that was like PTSD. No, won't fucking do it. She does, though.
Yeah.
And the singer is a real bitch, I have to say.
God.
Oh, man, I would just stop playing. So get your fucking ass out of my house. Whatever. Of this whole film, even the douchey boyfriend, right? Not a big deal, but this bitch really got under my skin. I'm like, with all this going on, all these people, they're really delightful, wonderful, real. And you cantankerous, operatic twat.
Can't you see things are happening around you?
Right? I mean, you're singing in a fucking apartment. I'm thinking, not ruin any chances of discovery, no auditions, give it a minute. But anyway. So mom's looking around. She's having trouble finding the money. She looks distressed. Vic asks, where's the money? She tells him she put it in the couch. And there's just this moment, all this stuff's going on in the background, the piano, the singing and stuff, but they're just staring at each other speechless. And then, of course, Dima swoops in, comes into frame. What's going on? What's going on? So he tells him the money's in the sofa, and he just busts out laughing.
Yes.
He gets it. So Vic asks Dima for money since he's pilfered Lilia's place.
Yeah.
So they're heading out. Sasha runs out after them. She insists on going on with them. And then Dima shows up with some flowers.
Yeah, that he took from the recital.
Yeah.
He just stole them.
Yeah. Vic races off to the police station. So Dima gives the flowers to Sasha. Tracy says they're nice. He gives her one. He's like, no. So they count the flowers, and Sasha explains that in Russia, an even number of flowers means death.
Right.
So there was 38, so he gave her one. Now Sasha has 37. It's all good.
And then Sasha says that he's so cheap, and she gives like half the flowers to Tracy.
And then Dima goes into full Dima mode and is hitting on Tracy and then Sasha. Vic is watching, not impressed. And then Dima goes on about how he knows everyone. I know you, and I know your heart, la, 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 la. And then Vic says he knows Dima. He tells him not to fuck with his sister.
She's been through enough.
Yeah, Dima's like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're a con artist, you're a bullshitter, blah, blah, blah. And then they kind of argue.
And this is where the film goes black and white.
And this is where it goes full black and white. Yep.
So Dima just starts throwing the money around the van.
Yeah.
Saying he doesn't need it and Vic is an asshole. I mean, So they get to the station, still in black and white, and the van is basically in the middle of a riot.
Yes.
That's happening at the police station. So Dima tries to clear a path for the wheelchair lift so that Vic can get Tracy out. And she fights her way through the crowd to get to the front. Tries to explain to the officer that she needs to bail her brother out. She's like, I need to get in there. I have a reason to get in there. You know, I've got money to bail my brother out. My brother's in there. You can't stop me from going in there. But the officer will not let her.
He's like, nobody's getting in.
Yeah. And the crowd starts getting violent. Dima gets into a fight with somebody for no real reason.
Car guy.
Oh, yeah, it's the car guy.
It's the car guy who wanted $500. He happened to, and he's like, oh, I know you. And then Dima's like,
yeah,
boxer.
Yeah. And then gunshots ring out and the crowd just sort of goes crazy. Kind of scattering, kind of
that. Well, everyone who's seen a big riot knows what happens. There's people who panic, there's mayhem, there's confusion. And then there's also the people who are like, if this is where we're fucking at, bring it.
Well, yeah.
But you don't know where you're bringing it to.
Right.
Or who you're bringing it to.
Right.
Which just adds more to the confusion, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a fucking mess. Very tense.
So, it's confusion and trampling, and Vic is trying to get to Tracy while Dima is protecting Sasha. And Tracy gets knocked over, and Vic puts himself over her to protect her.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing we see, Vic and Tracy are talking. Tracy's okay. I was worried in that scene before because I thought she was dead.
Yeah. Well, they're in the van now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's color again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's talking about how she does what she does to take care of her mom. And she asks how he does what he does. And then this lovely Bon Iver song comes on over a montage of the tree drawings again. And James talking. And everything is done for a reason is sort of the last line, I feel like.
It's everything happens for a reason. That's what they say. Who am I to question that? You live life the best you know how, and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
That was it. And then there was and then the music was starting to play. This fucking music, people, is awesome. Oh, we're going to talk more about that too. But his last words are, anything else?
Oh, yeah.
And then just like a bit of the van driving actually on the freeway with like no cars around.
Yeah.
Kind of like just peace.
So.
That is Give Me Liberty. And this was a machine gun run. I know that. But there was so little I wanted to summarize.
Yeah.
And we summarized a lot.
We did.
Even, you might not think, listeners, but we did. I think now.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it. So I want to just start out by saying this is the most beautiful movie I have ever seen.
Yes.
And I don't say that lightly. And I don't mean to diminish any of the work our friends have done or any of the stuff we've covered and any of the stuff we've seen that we haven't put on the show. There is just something about this movie that everybody should see this. There is something so viscerally real.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess if we talked about it, and it's like a slice of life.
Yeah.
And as everybody knows, that is my fucking jam. I love horror. I love zombie horror. I love gory shit. I love, battle royale, ridiculous Japanese gore fests.
Oh, yeah.
We love all that shit. But I love slice of life movies because generally there's almost no real plot. There's no, like, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was a great buddy film, but Space Trucker Bruce knocked that off the list for me. Right. And Space Trucker Bruce did have a plot, right?
Yeah.
Bruce just wants to get his shit, his fat.
Yeah.
His big shipment of fat delivered.
Yeah.
And there's just a bunch of shit that happens, and it's fun and it's great. This, I don't know. When we started, I turned to you and said, this movie makes me really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
but not in a bad way.
Just in a real way.
A real, that fucking just trying to get the morning started and shit happening and constant rushing and things going wrong and people, there's not like a moment to breathe.
Yeah.
And we have both had those moments in life.
Oh, gosh.
We had Lily watch this.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried to explain to her that, and she didn't quite connect because she's,
I mean, she's a teenage kid.
She's 15. She hasn't had this kind of experience. And I don't know, just everything about it. The stuff that I ended up reading about this just made sense. It didn't enlighten.
Right.
But
it was just like, yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. That tracks. Like they wanted to do it in Milwaukee and it had to be winter. It had to be in winter. It had to be cold. It had to be.
Because the city's a character.
Yes.
In the film.
Yes. And they wanted that environment because anyone knows in Wisconsin, you can have a bad rush, day like this and just shit going wrong, but winter adds a fucking dimension to it.
It truly does.
I mean, anyone in the northern states knows that, but this is Milwaukee and it's a happening million-mile-an-hour heartbeat city, like all the big cities in this country. Doesn't fucking slow down for anybody, and you've got to grab that bitch by both ears and just let it know who's fucking boss, or it will fuck you into oblivion. And New Yorkers especially can relate to that.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to preface all my input with there isn't a single fucking thing wrong with this movie. It is as beautiful as you can get because they used real people. Well, I'll come back around that unless you cover it. I don't know what you're going to say, but I'm going to put in the notes. Stop. See this movie
right
now. Watch it now, and hopefully, folks, you did, because I hope everyone shares that.
It's a whirlwind.
It is. And in all that fucking chaos, there is just so much beauty because it's real.
Yeah.
I have never felt anything more real that wasn't a documentary.
I know.
Right?
And it did almost feel at times like you were watching a documentary, but in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. The closest thing I can think of, I can't remember the name of it. I was going to go back through our episodes and see what the name of it was. The one where the woman takes her husband's, they've got that inoculation business with the chickens, and they're going bankrupt, and there's like one big corporate farm taking over. She ends runoff. Yeah. She ends up dumping chemicals illegally for cash. That one scene, that whole thing was real, the struggles and stuff. But the one scene that we both fucking nailed on was when she had that fistful of what money she got. And the first thing she did is went shopping and bought costumes and shit for her kid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Fuck the bills. I'm buying my kid a fucking Halloween costume. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The fucking electric bill can wait. And there was just something so real about how that whole thing was done.
Well, yeah. And the thing is, when there are movies about blue collar, sort of people, they're either typically, and this is like studio films or big budget independent films.
Yeah.
They're romanticized in this way that feels sort of weird and disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And usually they're like based on a true story, but it's, it's the skeleton of what really happened, and they just kind of flower it up. And that's why it feels fake.
Yes.
Right?
Well, this is kind of, it's inspired by Kirill's life when he came over from Russia. He drove one of these fucking vans.
Yes.
And this, lived in a shitty apartment and crowded and stuff. And, anyone who's from a big city and has been out and about, because I know people who've lived in big cities. I'm like, what a waste of life. You've never left your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you don't have to go like to the worst parts because, let's admit it, they're dangerous in the big cities. But that's like the very bottom point. there's many layers above that. That yeah, it's rough, but you should. There are people in your city, you know, and but anyone from these places knows there's groups of immigrants
Mm-hmm.
who settle in different areas, and um, this is it's just very much a Russian community in
Yes.
Milwaukee, and it's hilarious. They they didn't lampoon anything.
No.
Nothing is taken so far out that you look at it and you're like, stereotype. They're capitalizing on it. It's a trope. It's just so genuine.
No. Yeah. This feels like a very honest film.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Everything about this, the way it was shot.
Okay. So let's go into
Let's get into the stuff.
the color.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Muted.
I was going to say, not stark, not sharp.
Right.
That's not what makes
It's
coloring
soft.
beautiful. It is soft. It's very muted, very wintry feeling.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. But it doesn't feel like it's intentionally mute. It feels like that's just how it is. You know what I mean?
It is, because it's it's on
Yeah.
the cooler side of the color correction,
Mm-hmm.
but not like in horror movies. They go to extremes
Oh yeah.
sometimes to really just, punch in where you're at and what's happening. This is consistent. There's some color shifts, like some
Yeah.
of the indoor scenes, her house. And what I noticed is not only is it muted, but like that bit with the record player or the playing with
Oh
the
yeah.
record, that's one of the warmest
It is.
colored scenes. Very much contrast
Yeah.
because they are at peace. They're connecting. It's just a soft little moment. There's no like stolen kiss. There's no makeout session. There's no
Right.
anything, because they're not. Because after that, they're going back, and that's when her boyfriend dumps her.
Yeah.
So as far as she's concerned, there's still something to deal with. You know.
Yeah. It's very soft, very romantic feeling, but not in the not in the romance way, but just sort of like life is romantic,
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say like a human.
Yeah.
It's the human connection,
Mm-hmm.
not what can we do if we're all alone kind of shit. It's two people connecting at a level that honestly, on a day-to-day basis, a lot of us just don't get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, think of all the people that you hung out with, I hung out with and stuff before we met, right? That connection
Yeah.
was like boom. You don't have that with other people, you know.
Right.
And we just met as, coworkers.
Yeah.
And we talked about stuff, and it wasn't flirting and it wasn't all this.
It was just talking.
It was talking, but it was that sharing of real,
Mm-hmm.
right? We knew immediately who the other person was
Yeah.
because we talked about core things like records, for Vic,
Right.
right? We talked about writing and horror movies and books.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are real.
Mm-hmm.
Vic spends his money on records. I've spent a lot of our money on all the recording,
Yes.
software, computer, everything to do the writing that we want to do and
Yeah.
to do this thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The cinematography of the film is very, very personal.
Yes.
It's a lot of handheld, but it's not super jarring. It's not like shaky cam, right?
Right.
But most of the shots are very up close. There are not a lot of like wide angle shots.
There are not.
I mean, there are a couple. There's like the funeral. There are a few like showing spaces.
I don't even think they're wide. I'm thinking of it in terms of like a photographer.
Sure.
Yeah. With any lens, you can tell a wide angle lens because that bitch just sweeps in everything. It almost feels like they were using I got the sense of them using a prime lens and actually physically moving the camera.
Right.
For like wider shots, but not wide angle shots. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, it was very economical in its use of space. We didn't get a lot of broad shots just to get broad shots. Most everything was, like you said, very personal.
Yeah. It's like torso and face, or,
Yeah.
small group of people, or two people whose heads are pressed together, or, it's all these like just up close and personal
Yeah.
shots.
So much so there's a lot of cuts.
Oh, yeah.
Like at the dinner table, instead of a giant, which, so if you have no money and you are making your indie film and you have a big scene like this, generally it's people on three sides of the table, maybe incidental characters who don't have much going on with their backs to the camera, but it's always that wide shot, right? Got to get all the action right here. This cut to every person who's talking, or while someone's talking, someone's doing something.
And it almost feels
very
like the person
fast.
with the camera is like leaning over the table into them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really there, which I think makes this even just, amplifies that beautiful factor.
Yeah.
Because in situations like this, when you're in a room in real life and this level of stuff is going on, that's how it is,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're darting from one person to that's like cutting there, there,
Yeah.
there, but it's all right there on you.
Yeah.
And that's how this felt.
And a lot of this takes place on that van.
Yes.
Which is not huge.
No.
I mean, it's not like a big shuttle bus. It is, it's a little utility van.
Right. I think so. There's the lift and there's a spot in the back for the chair.
Yeah, where you can strap the chair on the ground. Or on the floor.
I think maybe it's like a 10-person max.
Right.
Because when Ben was in there, they didn't have everybody else.
Right.
Wouldn't have worked.
No, Ben's a large fellow.
Yeah, and he took up the whole back, so Tracy wouldn't have been there. But yeah, it's. I had never felt so. I don't even want to say energized. It didn't amp me up. It amped me in that I just saw this. This actually happened. Somebody actually made this, and I got to watch it. And that experience, it was its own thing.
Yeah.
But the movie itself, fuck, hell. It's almost like there's nowhere to go but down now. And I know that sounds like shit, and I hope nobody's offended by that. And I don't think they would be. I think our friends will recognize, even if they don't feel the same way about it.
Right.
Right. Will recognize you have to appreciate somebody's love for something.
Yeah.
In movies, right? If somebody has their Citizen Kane or their 10 Commandments or whatever big thing is in their life cinematically, you have to be there.
Yeah.
That's part of the whole thing, is you don't just support other filmmakers for their work and the craft and stuff. All of us love movies, because if you don't, you can't fucking do this.
Yeah, and
right?
I mean, it is special talking to someone who's watched a film, even if you didn't both watch it at the same time, in the same place, in the same way, right?
Yeah.
Your experience of watching that film is different, but you've both experienced that film.
Yes. And so at D&D, I told everyone about it.
Oh yeah.
You got to see this movie. It's fucking beautiful. Your mom came over to visit yesterday. We told her to watch it. Right. We had Lily watch it, because you just,
I know I told Carla and Ashley to watch it. I'm like, you guys have to watch this.
Absolutely. It's just so real. That first 20 minutes is so, like I said, uncomfortable. I have done this and I feel like I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And, it sounds kind of ridiculous, but to say, I'm fucking exhausted watching this guy.
Well, Yeah. So let's talk about the actors a little bit.
I want to start out with Chris Galat.
Oh my gosh.
This dude looks exactly like Leonardo DiCaprio's lost twin as a young man.
Yeah.
It is uncanny.
Not just in his looks, but in his like expressions and mannerisms.
This guy, all these people did such a fantastic job, but he was magnificent.
Yeah.
And why? I don't know. I know was in a couple things, like a horror thriller thing. I don't think he had a huge part because I couldn't find it, but I wanted to show you because I can't remember.
Yeah.
I was down the rabbit hole when I came across all this.
Sure.
Because folks, I was looking up fucking everything I could. I'm like, how did this happen in 2019? And I'm just now watching it.
Yeah, because it did win awards at festivals. And I mean,
and we're not completely we don't read the dailies, and we're not like tuned in and spend 6 hours a day, right, trolling the news and shit. But big things like this pop across the radar. How did we miss it? And I get, 2019 pandemic, maybe, but even more so, we should have probably heard of it.
I know.
Right? Because that's the time.
Yeah.
When there is nothing else happening.
It must have been just before, I don't know.
Well, if it was released in 2019, that it was, because I remember reading the Kickstarter. They're like, we've got to make this goal by this date, or we won't have enough time for pre-production. And then begin in winter, we'll have to postpone it for a year. And Kirill's whole thing was, we're more than likely going to lose the momentum, and then this may never happen.
Yeah.
It's kind of a call to action, right? Yeah. Please, we got to meet this goal. I don't know how much part of that was part of the whole thing, but yeah, I mean, a lot went into this.
An enormous amount. So back to actors. Lolo Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
She is incredible as well.
She is. She hits all the notes.
Oh yeah.
She's funny as shit with her sarcasm, her observations, her sharp, biting humor.
Mm-hmm.
The bit where she's arguing with her brother, putting up with her mom, with grandma, all that, the chaos of her day.
Yeah.
Because
her day got fucked up too.
Yeah. But at the end, that talk, I could go anywhere. I could do anything. I chose and I choose to be here.
Because the things that matter to me are here.
Yes. Taking care of her mom, her family. That's what matters to her. That's her ambition.
Yeah.
Right? And you can see where she would be a plus in Vic's life.
Yeah.
Right? And I felt like when James was saying, I want to do this, I want to do that. I took that as a lesson. And I don't know if this was the case. Hopefully we'll be able to get a hold of some of these folks and have them on here. Especially in the writing. I'd like to know, was that the intent? But I got the sense that when James was telling Vic, I haven't heard you once say I want to do this, and he's like, I just haven't figured myself out yet, or found my way. I feel like her talking about why she's there explained Vic.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times the lesson is, in life, we're supposed to be looking for this big fucking thing.
Well, and that's the thing. Yeah, everyone's been telling Vic the whole time, why aren't you doing anything with your life? And, the question, coming up from what Tracy said about what her stuff, like, why isn't what he's doing enough?
Yeah, he is doing something with his life.
Yeah, he's taking care of his grandpa.
He's taking care of his grandpa. He's working to make what money he can, and
help people while he's doing it.
And he's not just a driver. He knows all these folks.
Yeah.
Right? So he's involved.
And his big argument with Tracy at the beginning of the movie when, she's like, why are all these people on this van? What is going on? He's like, people depend on me.
Yeah,
And she's like, I depend on you.
Yeah, I mean, and she was fair for that.
I mean, she was
Absolutely spot on. But yeah, both of them together are absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody did a magnificent job. But yeah, the character of Vic just is alive, and that's not by accident. You know, well, we're talking about actors real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So I read that initially they had named actors up for this.
Yeah, big name actors.
Big name, and they were reaching out and stuff way early on. They had acknowledgments and people interested, but then the filmmaking group got together and the decision was made, no, this will only work if we have non-actors in like virtually everything,
Mm-hmm.
and at the very most unknowns.
Right.
Right. Chris was scouted out grocery shopping in fucking Bronx.
Yeah.
Right. Um uh uh Maxim Dima.
Oh yeah.
Right. He's from Russia.
Yes.
He came over. He was in Russia. He made some short films there. He's a producer.
Mm-hmm.
So he came over to act in this. I mean, shit.
I love his character, Dima. I know.
He's the best. I want to talk real quick about the center.
Yeah, the Eisenhower Center.
This was a big thing for me. Because it really struck me that this whole segment, and it's a long one too,
it
was real people with real disabilities
mm-hmm.
and doing a real thing, the talent show.
Yeah.
A lot of times in movies, to be politically correct, and nobody can argue this against me, because if you try, I'm just going to blast you down with 1,000 examples. A lot of times they put mentally and physically disabled people in films to show we care. We care. We know they're out there. We care. And we'll cut them a check. But it has nothing to do with the fucking plot. It has everything to do with showing how sensitive we are, and maybe how sensitive a character is, because they're otherwise a dick. And then that's it. It's gone. This was a through line. This was his job. His job is related to these people. He is
mm-hmm.
their transportation. Pick up, drop off, take here, take there, be on time. This. He wasn't really good at it, it sounds like.
No.
Right? But he kept doing it. And he knows them by name. And he knows what's going on. Right?
Yeah.
So this whole thing, I don't know. I loved it. Because it wasn't a, hey, look, we care.
Mm-hmm.
This was part of the world that we're being brought into. And it was as genuine as anything I could ever remember ever seeing.
Yeah.
And it was just beautiful.
I know that word, we keep using it for this movie, but this movie is just beautiful.
It is. It's beautiful. It's beautiful from a cinematic standpoint. It's beautiful from a filmmaking, writing, acting, production, editing, everything. The story that it told, which, people could argue, what is the actual story? Everyone's just trying to get through the fucking day.
Yeah.
Right?
So that life is messy and wild and frustrating and
mm-hmm.
difficult and also beautiful.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes. It is. It's just a wonderful film. I have not felt so emotional about a film.
Yeah.
I think this much ever. There are films that kind of get to me a little bit, even though, I watch them over and over. And that's kind of why I watch them.
Sure. Yeah. I know. I've got my cry movies.
Yeah. But this, God, we bought this, by the way, B-Siders.
Yeah.
Yeah. Through Apple TV. And, they'll get their $1.09 from the purchase.
Whatever it is they get. I mean,
or a nickel. I don't know what the
bought it outright
anymore. But yeah, we just bought it. Because
it is available
fantastic.
on Tubi.
It is. That's where we watched
it.
For
free. Yeah.
So watch it on Tubi for free. I also want to talk about the music.
Yes, I was about to bring us around to that.
Please do.
So I recognized the sound of Bon Iver at the end of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like fixated on the song that they played at the end.
The name is Holocene.
Yes, Holocene. And it's funny because it didn't even occur to me that you wouldn't know who Bon Iver was, you know,
It didn't connect.
but you do.
I do.
And you did. You just didn't realize that you did.
Because, well, the song you brought me in on.
Yeah.
Was
Skinny Love.
Yeah. That's a way different sounding piece.
It is, but Bon Iver's music is it's different.
Oh, I know. I've been listening to them all over the fucking place.
Yeah.
I even found the video of them making Holocene.
Yeah.
On YouTube. Way the fuck back. This song's been around forever. And again, how did that not cross my fucking listening path?
I don't know.
It makes.
I always thought that you like probably just listened to. It never occurred to me to ask you.
Well, here's the thing. This, I think, proves a point, which is a weak point in all of this. There is so much out there.
I know.
There's so many movies. We will never get to them all, ever.
Yeah.
And there's things we'll never hear about, never see, never find. And it saddens me, but it's just the way it is. And there's so much music out there. You know, I'm not stuck in fucking 60s rock and 70s rock. You know, I like all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
And there's stuff I absolutely don't like. But there's just so much of it. It's easy to get past it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's, bands I listen to, artists I listen to. I haven't heard all their stuff. I don't have time.
Yeah.
And usually right now, because it's like during the workday, right?
Mm-hmm.
We haven't sat down and had just a good old music jam in like a long time. Yeah.
But
anyway,
about the sound design for this movie, it is chaos. It's pure chaos for 99% of the movie. Because it is 16 different people all shouting over each other. It is, just, I mean, it's a literal riot. It's a bunch of elderly Russians arguing on a bus. It is in that center. I mean, but you can, if you are listening to pick out things, you can hear them.
Yes.
Right?
It's not focused.
Mm-hmm.
So, everyone knows when you've got sound equipment that you can use, boom mics, right? Shotgun mic.
Yeah.
Right. You can hone, depending on what kinds you've got, but mostly you can hone that down to like a nickel's width of sound.
Right.
Coming out of someone's mouth. Right. Not only are all those people, but like the van rides, every fucking creek you can imagine in a rickety ass van, right? Barreling down a Milwaukee street. And Milwaukee streets are not great.
They are not. They're not super well maintained.
Madison's aren't really much better. But anyway, I loved that.
Yeah.
That it didn't sound Foley because you're watching everything go on.
Yeah. It did not sound like they did post-production. I'm sure they did for various things.
Oh, I mean, you always have to do something.
But it didn't sound like they did.
It felt like they went wide open.
It did. And then, so you have that for the whole film, and then the film ends on this lovely, soothing Bon Iver song.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Which just does a perfect job of bringing you down from that tension.
There's a little bit of it earlier.
Yeah.
Towards the middle. But it's just the chords,
mm-hmm.
right? Just a few of the beginning chords. And, but it starts, and then James starts his last bit at the end.
Right.
And with him, his voice, wow.
He is also an actual quadriplegic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The actor.
That's the thing. None of this is,
fake.
I mean, other than the character,
right?
Dima, but every physical element about this is real, and that's what they wanted, and they nailed it because all these people brought something, but there was just something about his voice. It's so soothing in all the chaos.
It is.
And you don't understand right away. It's not until the mid part when he goes on about the love of a woman, and that you realize this is not Vic visiting him over and over and over again.
Yeah.
This is a long conversation that he sat and had with this gentleman, which makes Vic the character even more real to us. We see it, he's not just a guy who drives and knows their name. This guy sat with James for how fucking long? I don't know, but a while, because James pointed it out. We've been talking for a long time. You even said dick
Yeah.
about this. But yeah, his whole thing at the end with his voice and then with Bon Iver's music rolling in on that was just, and then we went into the credits and watched it all the way through.
Yeah.
Watched the credits all the way through because it was just like, I don't even know how to react right now. The first time we saw this, I'm like, this is all so fucking wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to give also props to the writing, particularly the dialogue.
Yes.
Which was, I think, the best, most realistic dialogue I've ever seen in any movie ever.
Yep. And let's take that one step backwards to the actors. So much fucking talent to make that happen, to make it real.
Yeah.
Right? For you to feel like that takes talent. And there is no shortage of talent in any of these people. So that's like a writer's dream.
I know.
Right? We talk about it. How, like, when I hear it in my head, what we're writing, I know it's different from you, but we're close. We're close.
We are.
Right? And that's the most you can hope for, because the rest of it's, our individual brains doing all this thing with it. And we always talk about, God, we wrote this way. I know there's people who can be out there who can pull it off the way it should sound. But, we'll be lucky enough to find someone like that, or, worse, once, if it leaves our hands, and what are they going to fucking do to it? I don't.
I know.
Yeah. Don't want a nightmare going on.
But sometimes a gorgeous thing can happen where someone does it not the way that you thought about it, but they did it better.
And that's, that's a reality. And, that's where we've always talked about from the writing aspect. You got to get rid of your fucking ego. You got to have the ego to say, I know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm doing this well.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, this is something. I mean, you have to have that. But then you have to let go of the ego so you can take notes from people. You can, which notes really just means criticism. But it's a Hollywood term they coined a long time ago. You don't get criticized, you get notes.
Get notes.
Yeah. And sometimes
it's funny because the one thing that I think I said to you about this movie was like, it's perfect. No notes.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, the only thing that rubbed me the wrong way was that operatic bitch, the recital. It's like,
but that was real too.
Well, it was real. And that's kind of the thing, which is why I don't feel bad saying you.
Yeah.
Fuck that woman. But we've run into people like that, all over the place. Cinematography. So we talked about the color and the motion. I have talked about I don't like shaky cam films.
Yeah.
Right. This had a very documentary look in terms of there's movement because they're in this van, right? And this thing is just fucking getting jostled about. This wasn't just shaking a camera because you can see people's fucking cheeks, right? Especially the older folks with the jowls. They're bouncing as the van's bouncing and stuff. You can't fake that with camera motion.
Right.
It just added to the genuine nature of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is how you do it. I guess that's my lesson. If you need movement by moving the camera, watch this film and see how it's done. It has to fit. I bring in the Bourne Supremacy, right?
Yeah.
God damn. Wonderful movie ruined by the director's fucking hard on for shaking the camera, right? Yeah. I'm like, Jesus Christ. It's shaking and nothing's going on.
Yeah.
Fucking come on, man.
I mean, there's so much to talk about this movie. The shift to black and white, signifying that up until now, it's been just a normal day.
Right.
This is where shit got real.
Well, I liked in the disco when Vic's having that.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like not talking to anybody. He's just watching these people enjoying their lives.
Yeah.
It's a disco party. What the fuck else?
Right?
Why wouldn't you enjoy it? Right? And they are all doing it in the chair, out of the chair, with crutches, with walkers.
Who doesn't like a disco party?
Right. And they're, again, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But then he gets serious. He's not smiling, and you can tell he's thinking. And those moments of black and white, like when they cut to Tracy and her boyfriend's walking out, right? And he's just sitting there, and quick flashback of with his grandpa and the old folks, in the van, just like that, like super quick, and then just that thinking look on his face,
Yeah.
which was tangible. I felt like I could reach out and touch what
His
he's
thoughts.
feeling
Yeah.
in his thoughts. Yeah. I loved those little flashes, and then the whole end bit being in black
Mm-hmm.
and white, because this is life at its worst.
Yeah.
It's chaos. It's dangerous. It's volatile.
These are the moments where what you do truly, truly counts.
And the first time we watched this, when we heard that gunshot, I was actually angry. I'm like, this motherfucker isn't going to end this movie in a fucking murder, right? And then we see Tracy on the ground. I'm like, no, we didn't come this far. There's going to be like fucking 10 minutes of this thing left. This is not how it's going to end.
Right.
This is not, all of this isn't going to culminate in some shit ending.
I know.
Oh, I was so.
After all this, life is beautiful. I'm like, come on.
Oh, but then
Mm-hmm.
it kept true to itself, and I love that. I love that it made me feel that apprehension.
Yeah.
Don't you dare.
Yeah.
Don't you do it. You're better than this.
Yeah.
But yeah, that no matter what is going on, because these people, they're from an area of Milwaukee,
Mm-hmm.
right, where the riots and stuff are taking place, because that's where whatever the problem on point was that culminated to this. But even though it's an area, that's where all this other stuff, whatever your day is like, whatever he's been having, Tracy's been having, Dima, Mom, Sasha, all that, right? And this is where shit gets real for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I love the black and white because it did not separate anyone. It was a dark scene. It was night. We lost the drama of the lighting. There was a fire.
Yeah.
And all that was gone. It was people.
Mm-hmm.
And at a very unfortunate base level, right?
Yeah.
And then this thing happens, there's all the panic, the discord and stuff that really just added to it of we are all the same. Doesn't matter what neighborhood you come from, when this kind of thing happens, it's a leveler. And I just thought that was great. And it really made the end better.
It did.
Like I said, we went back to color. Mm-hmm. That's all great. But just the van driving, not racing.
Yeah.
And really it's just a shot with someone following the van, the camera in the car.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was very plain. They didn't like get a whole rig and shit going,
right?
Pulling out a trailer and all this stuff. That warmth, and I will say, so having driven in like Chicago and L.A. and San Francisco, New York, all these places, Milwaukee does have a very unique color tone at night on the freeways.
It does. It's interesting.
It's very singular, and I don't know if that was part of the reason. But it
I think part of the reason they were focused on Milwaukee is because there are so few movies that take place in Milwaukee.
I mean, true. Yeah. And Milwaukee's Milwaukee. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I'm not a huge fan of any big city, really.
Right.
I just, anyway, that end scene, it was such a contrast. There was all the warmth that we were talking about missing
mm-hmm.
from the other stuff. And No dialogue, nothing closed.
Yeah.
Just James finishing up his bit, and then the rest of it was silence, and then credits and Bon Iver playing that beautiful fucking song. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm just going to say it over and over again.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, this movie deserves it.
Yeah.
Deserves to have that word applied to it.
Wow.
Oh, I'm trying to think. Is there anything else? I covered writing, which was spot on
Yeah.
for dialogue.
Well, here's the thing. I've been thinking about it as we're talking. And if we continue to talk about stuff, we're going to talk about this movie for 6.5 hours when people should really just go watch it.
Well,
Because
I mean,
the lessons in the movie, we always pull out lessons like do this, don't do this, don't do this. I think the lesson for this movie is just watch this movie.
I mean, I would agree. This has everything. Here's the best part. This has everything every filmmaker should want to aspire to. Right. And I'm not saying make this kind of movie, but all of these things will transfer into a romance, comedy, horror, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
Right. But at any indie budget, you can achieve watching this movie. You can do this with $500 in your pocket, right? Shooting on whatever you can. And we talked about, so you can't match the sound, you can't do this. Do the best you can. But collectively, this is the fucking finished product you are looking for.
Yeah.
Right? Where everything comes together in such an astounding tight fit, interlocking.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a cheap budget, then everything's going to come together in an astounding, interlocking, cheap budget way.
Right.
Which, arguably, a lot of the very no budget, low budget stuff that we've covered manage that.
Space Trucker Bruce.
Yeah.
Quick note: this movie was filmed at least partially on actual film.
Yes, Kodak.
Yeah.
Kodak. I think Kodak Grant probably.
Oh yeah.
Put some of that.
Yeah.
In there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pay attention. So, folks, watch this. Watch the credits all the way through.
Pay attention.
And I like to say that sometimes because the people who work on these movies don't get to light a fucking day.
Right.
And I always try to watch credits, for movies like this because I read the names. That's all I can do for you. You did your bit in the film. I can read your name and acknowledge your contribution to this, right? And that's the most anyone really wants. It's like, I'm Guy in the back doing the thing. My name will be on the screen.
Right. I'm in the list of rioters.
Yeah. Somebody sees my name. All right.
Yeah.
So, give me liberty.
Yeah.
Just
watch it.
Just watch it. And I hope people feel something. I don't know that everyone needs to feel as strongly as I do about it.
Right.
But I hope this movie makes you feel something somehow.
Gives you something.
That is not negative.
Yeah.
I don't know how anyone can watch this and just be like, rah! But I hope this does something for you.
Yeah. Real quick, check out our website, lordsofmisrulproductions.com. Everything's on there, yada, yada, yada. Socials, Patreon, episodes.
As we go out, though, I do need to do that just because I'm so happy.
Do we have soundboards?
Yeah. B-siders, thank you for listening. See this fucking movie. Do yourself a favor. Buy it.
Do it.
Buy it.
Do it.
Yeah, it's like $15. Buy it.
Yeah.
And
if you can't afford to buy it, watch it on Tubi. Tubi's free.
Keep watching it until you can and then buy it. All right. B-siders, we will talk to you in a couple weeks with our next find.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Keep making them. Keep watching them. Keep writing them. Keep doing all your shit. Yep. And, reach out to us, all that stuff. Don't give up, folks. Do your thing.
Until next time, this is Danny.
And this is Jim.
Bye.